Ethan slept like any other lonely night, wrapped under a thin blanket in his small apartment bedroom. The fan hummed above his head, making a soft sound that mixed with the quiet city noise outside. He had gone to sleep without any special thought in mind. No girlfriend to text goodnight, no family staying over, no surprise guests, nothing. Just silence. Just another normal night for a simple technician who worked long shifts and came home tired when the first light of morning sneaked through his half-open window. Dust danced in the air like quiet stars. Ethan slowly opened his eyes, feeling the usual heaviness in his bones. He rubbed his face, groaned, and whispered to himself, "Another day." Yeah, his voice was tired, but there was a softness in it, the kind of voice lonely people make to feel less alone. He turned to his left, expecting to see his empty pillow. Instead, he froze. His eyes widened, breath caught in his throat, and, for a moment, his brain refused to understand what he was seeing. Lying beside him, under the same blanket, was a woman. Not just any woman, her skin was so pale it looked like moonlight. Her hair was long and black like flowing ink. Her breathing was slow and soft, her lips slightly parted. She looked peaceful, almost unreal. Ethan's heart jumped into panic. A shock shot through his body so fast he nearly fell off the bed. He pushed backward until his back hit the wall. His breath came out in small gasps, and his hands trembled. What the hell? He whispered in a sharp voice. He stared at the door. It was locked. He always locked it. There was no way anyone could come in without a key. He stared at the window. It was half open, but they were on the 3rd floor. No fire escape, no balcony, nothing. There was no logical path for someone to enter soundlessly and lie beside him. His heart slammed against his ribs again. She wasn't wearing normal clothes either. She wore a tight, silver-like fabric that looked too smooth to be human-made, like something out of a sci-fi movie. Her hands were thin, her fingers long, and her nails looked sharper than normal. She didn't look like a runaway girl or someone in trouble. She looked like someone who didn't belong to Earth. Ethan slowly reached for his phone on the nightstand, but he moved like he was trying not to wake a sleeping animal. His hand shook as he stretched his fingers. Before he could touch the phone, the woman's eyes snapped open. Red dot, not glowing like a demon from a horror movie, but bright and alive, like burning rubies. They stared directly into his. Ethan froze like someone shot him with ice. His breath stopped. For one long second, they just stared at each other. Then she blinked, her eyes softening, as if she was confused. She looked around the room slowly, like a newborn seeing the world for the first time. Then she sat up, pushing the blanket away. Her movement was gentle, but there was something sharp about her, something that made Ethan's stomach twist with fear and fascination. "Who are you?" Ethan finally shouted, voice cracking. His hands were shaking so badly he looked like he was holding invisible ice. The woman tilted her head slowly. Her expression was calm, not angry, not scared. Her lips moved. When she spoke, her voice was soft, almost musical, but strange, like someone learning how to speak again. "You are frightened," she whispered. Her English was rough, broken, but clear enough to understand. Ethan's skin crawled. "Of course, I'm frightened. I don't know who you are. You're in my bed." She blinked again, then touched her chest gently with her fingers. "My name," she paused, as if searching for the right sound. "Is Lyriel?" Ethan stared. His mouth opened and closed helplessly. He felt weird, trapped between fear, shock, and curiosity. "How did you get in here?" he asked, voice smaller now, like a scared child. Lyriel's eyes moved around the room again. Then she whispered, voice flat, "I did not enter. I awakened." Ethan's heart skipped. That word awaken felt wrong, strange, impossible. But as he stared at her pale face and red eyes, he knew one thing. Whatever she was not normal. And this morning would change everything. Ethan couldn't breathe properly. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest, each beat louder than the last. He had never seen anything like her. The pale skin, the red eyes, the black hair that seemed to move with its own life, even though she sat still. She looked like something out of a nightmare. Yet, she didn't seem dangerous, at least not in the way monsters were supposed to be. She looked scared. "Stay away," Ethan shouted, stepping back. He grabbed the lamp from the nightstand as if it could protect him. Every instinct in him screamed that he should run, lock the door, call the police. But part of him couldn't. Something inside whispered that running wasn't the answer. The woman tilted her head just a little, studying him. Her red eyes softened as she said, almost shyly, "You are afraid." Ethan's voice cracked. "Of course I am. You're in my bed. You could be anything." She lifted her hands slightly, palms open, a gesture that seemed to plead for calm. "I do not wish to hurt." Ethan stared at her. His mind raced. The door was locked. He hadn't left a window open. He had checked every entrance before sleeping. How could someone just appear in his bed? A human? Impossible. And yet, the woman in front of him was real. The fear in her movements matched the fear she had caused in him. What are you?" he asked. His voice was small now, curiosity creeping in beneath the fear. She hesitated. Then quietly, almost like a confession, she said, "Lyriel, I am different. From far away." Ethan's stomach turned. Different, far away. Different how? He wanted answers, but the words stuck in his throat. This woman, this Lyriel, didn't seem human, but she wasn't attacking him. Her hands were trembling, and when she spoke, it was like she was afraid her words would hurt him somehow. She looked down at her arms, tracing invisible lines over her pale skin. "I need blood," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I do not take by force. I survive by consent." Ethan's eyes widened. He took a step back. "Blood, you mean, like a vampire?" Her red eyes glimmered. She nodded. "Yes, vampire, but not what you think. I do not hunt. I do not kill." Ethan's hands dropped slowly. Fear was still there, strong and raw, but now it mixed with something else, pity. She was trembling, fragile, and she wasn't attacking him. This strange alien vampire was. Scared, and maybe she had no one. He swallowed hard. "So, what do you want from me?" Lyriel's gaze lifted. Her eyes, though sharp and red, looked almost human, now tired, confused, desperate. "I wake, I hungry, need help." Ethan took a shaky breath. Something inside him stirred. Humans could be cruel, selfish, violent, but humans could also choose kindness. And right now, he felt a strange pull. He wanted to help her, protect her, somehow. "Okay," he said finally. "Sit back down. Don't fall again." Lyriel nodded, careful, as she lowered herself onto the bed. Her movements were awkward, unfamiliar, like she had forgotten how to use her body. Ethan noticed the tiny shivers running through her thin frame. He walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass, and filled it with water. Then he added tomato juice from the fridge, unsure if it would help. When he handed it to her, She took it with a shaking hand. Her lips touched the glass, and for the first time, she allowed herself to swallow something. You drink? Ethan asked softly. Lyriel nodded. Yes, enough. For now, Ethan sat beside her, still unsure of what to do. The fear in the room hadn't completely gone. It never would, but now there was a fragile connection. He realized something. This creature, this Lyriel, might be stronger than any human, but right now, she was just alone, vulnerable, lost, and maybe, for the first time, someone was choosing to help her instead of running away. Her voice came out small, trembling. Why? You help me. Many humans. Scared. Kill first. Ask later. Ethan gave a small, almost embarrassed shrug. Humans can be selfish, yeah, but we can also care. Sometimes we just do what feels right. Lyriel blinked slowly, absorbing his words. Her eyes, still red, seemed softer now. For the first time, the sharpness in them faded just a little. She didn't smile, but something in her posture relaxed. Ethan realized then that fear didn't always come from monsters. Sometimes it came from not knowing what a stranger wanted from you. But he also realized that courage didn't have to come from strength. It could come from a simple choice to protect, to help, to care. And right now, he had chosen to stay. Ethan stayed by her side, watching Lyriel struggle with even the simplest movements. She tried to stand, but her legs wobbled like a newborn deer, and she almost fell to the floor. Instinct kicked in, and he rushed to steady her. His hands gripped her elbows gently, careful not to hurt her. It's okay, he said softly. You don't have to move too fast. Lyriel looked at him with wide, red eyes that glimmered with a strange mix of fear and hope. She opened her mouth, hesitated, and then whispered, hunger, long sleep, too long. Her voice was thin, fragile, and every word made Ethan's chest tighten. She wasn't trying to scare him. She wasn't trying to threaten. She was telling him the truth in the only way she could. Ethan swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. What do you eat? He asked cautiously, his voice trembling just a little. Blood, she said simply. There was no pride in her words, no cruelty, just a quiet, terrible need. Ethan took a step back, his mind spinning. Blood, vampire, alien, alone in his small apartment with a creature that could buy every story he had ever heard, kill him in an instant. And yet, she didn't look like a predator. She looked weak, small, fragile, lost. I can't give you that, he said slowly, panic and compassion mixing in his chest. I can't. Lyriel's eyes didn't flash with anger. She didn't scream or lash out. She lowered her gaze, pressed her hands to her chest, and whispered, I do not take by force. I survive with consent. My people, they hunt. I refuse. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. She wasn't just strong. She had courage. She wasn't going to become a monster, even though the hunger burned inside her. She was choosing control, choosing morality, and somehow the weight of that choice made her more human than most humans he had ever known. He stepped closer and handed her a glass of water again, this time with some warm broth. She accepted it shakily, hands trembling. As she drank, Ethan realized that fear and compassion could exist together, not just in him, but in anyone ever a vampire from another world. Lyriel let out a soft, almost inaudible sigh. You care. Humans, some care. Ethan smiled faintly. though the situation made it feel surreal. We do, sometimes. It depends who you meet. He paused, watching her drink. Even if you scare us at first. Her lips curled slightly, just a hint, not a smile, but enough for Ethan to notice. For a moment, she seemed lighter, almost fragile, almost human. Then she spoke again, her voice breaking the quiet. I am alone, my pod crashed near your world. I awoke. No one, they will come. They will find me. They will kill me. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. His pulse thudded painfully in his ears. Who will find you? Hunters. My people, they punish, escape. They do not care for mercy. Her voice trembled. She looked at him with a quiet desperation that Ethan didn't know how to answer. His mind spun with a sudden rush of protectiveness. She had done nothing wrong. She had not harmed anyone. And yet, death hunted her because she had chosen differently. Okay, he said firmly. His hands gripped the edge of the table. We'll figure this out. Together, you won't face them alone. Lyriel looked at him, shocked. Alone? She asked softly. Humans. Abandon. Leave. To die. You. Stay. Ethan shrugged awkwardly. Not always. Sometimes we help, even if it doesn't make sense. Her red eyes softened in a way that made Ethan's chest ache. She was an alien, a vampire, a stranger. And yet, she looked at him as if he had given her something she had been searching for her whole life, safety, for the first time. Ethan understood something he had always known, in theory, but never felt in reality. Humanity wasn't about strength, weapons, or power. It was about choice, about the courage to protect someone weaker than yourself, even when it's terrifying. He sat beside her on the edge of the bed, keeping his distance, but close enough to offer comfort. Lyriel rested her hands in her lap, trembling slightly, and slowly, cautiously, she leaned forward. Not for attack, not for feeding, just to be near someone who chose to stay. And in that quiet morning light, Ethan realized that fear and hope could live in the same room. That monsters could be human, and humans could be heroes without a sword. Lyriel's red eyes met his, and she whispered, almost inaudibly, why? Help me. Ethan took a deep breath. Because you woke up in my bed, and I couldn't let you face the world alone. Her gaze softened, and for the first time, her sharp fangs didn't seem like a threat. They seemed small, insignificant, and Ethan knew that, no matter what came next, he would face it. Not because he had to, not because he was strong, but because he was human. Ethan and Lyriel had only just begun to understand each other when the sound came. It was faint at first, like a shadow brushing across the floor. Then it became louder metallic thuds against the hallway floor, doors rattling, the unmistakable echo of heavy boots. Ethan froze. His stomach twisted into knots. They found you, Lyriel whispered, voice trembling. Her red eyes widened, glowing faintly in the soft morning light. Fear had returned to her face, sharper now, more desperate than before. She grabbed Ethan's wrist, her grip tight and cold. Hide, now. Ethan's mind raced. Hide, run, call for help. None of it felt right. They were alone, and these were not ordinary humans. They were her people hunters, cruel, relentless, and without mercy. And they were coming. But his body refused to obey the instinct to cower. Something inside him, stubborn and human, screamed not to leave her behind. "No," he said, almost to himself. "We don't hide. We move. Come on." Lyriel's hand squeezed his wrist, but she allowed him to pull her to the door. Her movements were careful, almost hesitant, like she feared she might collapse with one wrong step. Ethan led her to the fire escape window in the kitchen. They had no other choice. The street below was 3 floors down, but it was better than staying in the apartment where death could find her, ready. Ethan whispered. Lyriel nodded, her voice small but firm. "Yes, go." They climbed down, one careful step at a time. Ethan's fingers were white around the railing, and Lyriel's steps were light but quick, her whole body trembling from fear and exhaustion. The cold air hit their faces when they reached the bottom, carrying the smells of the city morning trash, wet asphalt, and faint coffee from the corner cafe. For a brief second, it reminded Ethan that the world kept moving, indifferent to fear, danger, or monsters. Then the hunters arrived. They spilled out from the building in dark armor, faces covered, weapons glinting in the sunlight. Ethan froze. Their movements were too precise, too coordinated. They were trained. They were not human in mindset, not like him. Lyriel's head bowed, but she didn't run. She stood trembling, ready for whatever came next. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Run," he shouted. They sprinted down the narrow alley, hearts hammering. Ethan stumbled once, almost taking them both down, but Lyriel's quick reflexes kept them upright. Her hands were surprisingly strong for someone so fragile, and she pulled him forward when his foot caught on a broken brick. Behind them, the hunters chased, silent and relentless, their footsteps echoing off the alley walls like the drumbeats of war. Ethan glanced back. One hunter lifted a weapon and aimed, and his chest froze. But Lyriel moved in front of him. Not to attack, not to fight, but to shield. "They are faster," she whispered, her voice trembling. They do not care. They take without asking." Ethan's chest burned. His hands were raw from gripping hers. His lungs ached from running, but he refused to let her face them alone. Humans could be weak, yes. Humans could panic, but humans could also protect. And right now, he was choosing to protect. The alley ended at the subway entrance. Without hesitation, Ethan pulled her inside. The early morning commuters stared at Lyriel with curious eyes, but nobody interfered. Humans usually minded their own business. Till danger crossed their path, they ducked into a maintenance corridor, out of sight of the hunters. Lyriel collapsed against the wall, her pale face slick with sweat. "I cannot fight much," she admitted, voice low and exhausted. "They, stronger than me, faster." Ethan crouched beside her, trying to calm his own racing heart. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. "We have to. We can't just let them take you." Lyriel's red eyes met his, wide and filled with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "Why, you do not leave me," she whispered. "Humans fear everything. You stay." Ethan's lips curved faintly. "Because sometimes humans do the right thing, even if it scares them." Lyriel's gaze softened, and for the first time, she let herself breathe without trembling. The hunter's footsteps faded slightly in the distance, but the danger remained. Still, in that moment, they were alive. Together, and in the chaos of the city, two unlikely allies stood against a force that wanted to tear them apart. For Ethan, fear no longer ruled him entirely. There was courage too. and for Lyriel, a fragile hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, humans weren't entirely monsters after all, and the chase was only just beginning. Ethan and Lyriel ducked into the dimly lit subway station, hearts still hammering from the chase. The rumble of an approaching train shook the platform, but it felt strangely comforting. The city outside was loud, chaotic, alive, but here, in the shadows of the underground, they could breathe. At least for a moment. Lyriel sank to the floor near a cold, cracked pillar. Her hands rested on her knees, trembling slightly. She had run, hidden, and yet her body still shook from fear and exhaustion. Ethan crouched beside her, careful not to touch too much at first, giving her space. His own chest heaved, every beat reminding him how close they had come to disaster. "They won't stop," she whispered, her red eyes fixed on the grimy floor. "They will find me, punish me, for escaping." Ethan frowned. He wanted to argue, to tell her it would be okay, but he couldn't. Her people were relentless. They were hunters who did not care about mercy or reason. He could only offer what he had, presence and a promise to protect her. "You're not alone," he said gently. "I'm not going anywhere." Lyriel's eyes lifted slowly to meet his. There was a flicker of disbelief there, mingled with gratitude. "Humans abandon easily," she murmured. "You stay." "Why?" Ethan shrugged, uncertain how to explain. "Maybe sometimes humans do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it scares us." Her gaze softened slightly. She leaned back against the pillar, letting herself rest a little. Ethan could see the faint rise and fall of her chest, her trembling slowing. For the first time since she had appeared in his bed, she seemed almost calm. They watched commuters pass, wrapped in their own worlds, oblivious to the alien vampire hiding just steps away. Ethan realized something about humans. We often ignore what scares us, and sometimes that saves lives. Minutes passed in tense silence. Lyriel finally spoke again, softer now, almost like she was testing the sound of her own voice. "Your world. Strange, many humans. Selfish, cruel, you. Help me." Ethan's lips curved faintly. "We can be both," he admitted. "Cruel, selfish, but we can also care, protect, stay, that choice. That's what matters." Lyriel blinked slowly. Her fangs caught the dim light, small and sharp, but she didn't bare them aggressively. "Choice, I have not many," she whispered. "My people force obedience. They kill those who resist. I resist. That makes me weak or hated." Ethan reached out, tentatively brushing a lock of black hair from her pale face. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "No," he said firmly. "That makes you strong. Stronger than most people I know. Strength isn't just muscle or weapons. To stand, to fight. Without hurting others." Lyriel's eyes glistened. She looked at him with something that Ethan didn't recognize, at first a faint shimmer of hope, of connection. It made his chest ache in a way he hadn't expected. He had saved people before in his life, sure, but never anyone like her. Never someone who seemed so dangerous, so otherworldly, yet so fragile and human in her fear. Suddenly a noise echoed through the station, a distant, rhythmic stomp of heavy boots, far louder and heavier than human feet. Ethan stiffened. The hunters had not stopped. They had followed them underground. Lyriel's body tensed beside him, They found us, she whispered. Her voice trembled, but there was no panic. Just fear, sharp and controlled. Ethan grabbed her hand, firm and reassuring. We'll keep moving, he said. We won't let them get you. Not now. Not ever. She looked at him, and for the first time, her red eyes seemed almost soft, almost human. Why? You care so much. Because, Ethan said slowly, you're alive. You're here. And sometimes, humans don't turn away when someone needs help. That's all the reason I need. Lyriel stayed quiet for a moment, then nodded. She leaned slightly toward him, letting him support her. Not for attack, not for feeding, just to feel a human presence nearby. The simple act of trust felt enormous. Ethan realized something profound as they sat there, hidden in the shadows of the subway. Danger was still out there, waiting, hunting, relentless. But hope was here, too fragile, tentative, but real, and for the first time, Ethan understood what humans could truly be, not just beasts of instinct, fear, or selfishness, but beings capable of courage, compassion, and quiet heroism. Lyriel's red eyes met his again. No words were spoken. None were needed. They had survived the first real test together, and somehow, in the darkness of the station, amid fear and exhaustion, a bond had formed. A bond that neither hunters, nor fear, nor the vast universe could easily break. The distant echoes of footsteps grew louder. Ethan's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He could hear the metallic clink of weapons against the concrete, and he knew, without looking, that her hunters had found them in the subway. Lyriel's red eyes narrowed, a mix of fear and resolve shining through. She rose slowly to her feet, trembling but steady, and Ethan could see her hands twitching as if she wanted to fight, but she held herself back. They are here, she whispered, voice low, almost a warning. They do not hesitate. Take life easily. Must protect you. Ethan's jaw tightened. We protect each other, he said firmly. I won't leave you alone. Her eyes widened, briefly touched with surprise, before hardening. Humans, you, fight differently. Brave, reckless, I respect that. The hunters appeared at the far end of the corridor, dark figures moving with terrifying precision. Ethan's stomach twisted. There were at least 3 of them, armed and ready. One raised a long, silver weapon, pointing it directly at them. Lyriel stepped in front of Ethan instinctively, spreading her arms like a fragile shield. Leave him, she hissed. Her fangs glimmered in the dim light, and for a moment, Ethan felt the sharp edge of danger behind her pale skin. The hunter laughed, a cold, cruel sound. You grow weak on this world, he said. You cannot hide from us. Ethan gritted his teeth. He grabbed a heavy metal pipe from the corner of the station, hands shaking, muscles straining. Humans are not the fastest or the strongest, but we have grit, endurance, and heart. He swung the pipe with all his strength, catching one hunter off guard. The metal connected with a clang, sending the hunter stumbling backward. Lyriel's eyes flashed red. She moved like lightning, faster than Ethan could follow. Her pale hands struck one hunter in the throat, and a small, controlled bite followed. She drew just enough blood to regain her strength, her movement precise, controlled. She released him immediately, letting him collapse to the ground but not die. Ethan stared. She was a predator, yes, but she was not cruel. She was not a monster. She took only what she needed, only to survive on, only to protect. The remaining hunters faltered, startled by her speed and control. Ethan felt a surge of hope. He realized that Lyriel's strength was not just in her alien body, but in her choices. She could have killed them all, but she didn't. She was stronger than them, in every sense that mattered. One hunter lunged at Ethan with a weapon raised. He swung the pipe again, blocking the attack and pushing the hunter back. Another tried to grab Lyriel, but she twisted out of his grasp with impossible agility, striking him in the chest. Her movements were elegant, precise, and terrifying, but never cruel. She fought like someone defending life, not ending it. Ethan's chest heaved as adrenaline coursed through him. He glanced at Lyriel, and for a moment, he saw her not as a vampire, not as an alien, not as someone from another world, but as a human being choosing to be good, even when it was harder than being evil. "They will not stop," she whispered. Her voice was steady now, controlled. "I cannot fight like this forever. We must escape." Ethan nodded. "We will, together." He grabbed her hand, and they ran through the maze-like corridors of the subway, the remaining hunters faltering behind them. Every step was dangerous, every corner a possible trap, but they moved as one. Finally, they reached a service exit. Sunlight spilled over the streets, warm and golden, a sharp contrast to the cold fear of the underground. They paused, gasping for breath. Lyriel's red eyes met his, softer now, almost grateful. "I took only what I needed," she said quietly. "I refuse to become them, refuse to harm innocents." Ethan smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. "Then humanity is lucky," he said. "We already have enough monsters. We need someone like you. Someone who knows how to survive and still be good." Lyriel's eyes glimmered with emotion. "You call this humanity? Your heart is strong." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Fear, adrenaline, and exhaustion mixed with pride. This strange alien vampire who had appeared in his bed hours ago was alive because of human courage and because of her own choices. She could have become a predator, but she had chosen restraint. She could have abandoned him, but she had stayed. And in that moment, Ethan understood something important. Being human was not about strength or dominance. It was about choice. It was about courage, compassion, and standing for what is right, even when the world or the universe told you to do otherwise. Lyriel stood beside him, pale and trembling, but unbroken. The hunters had retreated for now. They had survived, together, and for Ethan, for the first time in his life, he felt the weight and pride of what it meant to be human. Sometimes, humanity doesn't fight with weapons. Sometimes, it fights with heart.